What is up, guys? Welcome to another car review, and today I'm in one of my BMW e30s. I'm gonna review it for you, give some opinions, and yeah, so let's get started. Yeah, so the e30 was introduced in the beginning of the 80s and production started in 82 until 94. In those 12 years, around 2,400,000 units were produced, so that's an insane amount. That gives one big advantage, and that's that parts are really easy to find, especially in Europe. That's nice for me. Otherwise, the predecessor was the e21, and the successor was the e36. The e36 was introduced in 1990, if I'm not wrong. So that gave BMW like 4 years of transitioning between the e30 and the e36. This 3 Series were also the first one to introduce a diesel engine and an all-wheel drive. The all-wheel drive was later known as the 325iX, the X meaning an all-wheel drive. Considering the e30 itself, there were 2 types, Type 1 and Type 2. I'm driving the Type 1, which ran from 1982 until 1987. In 1987, the Series 2 or Type 2 were introduced, which gave quite of a major facelift, exterior-wise, interior-wise, and engine-wise. Talking about the engine, the M10, which is this one, was replaced by the M40. And exterior-wise, for example, the bumpers were changed. This one has chrome bumpers. Also, Type 2 had an introduction of the Touring and the introduction of the BMW E. So that the E stands for efficiency, and that particular model had a low revving engine, which benefits fuel economy, of course. Now, this particular engine is the M10 B18, which has a carburetor. It produces around 90 horsepower at 5,500 RPMs. Has an automatic 3 speeds. Torque is 100 foot-pounds of torque, or 140 Newton meters at 4,000 RPM. Then 0 to 60 in 12 seconds. What else? Yeah, top speeds 110 miles an hour, so that's around 175 kilometers. Like I said, M10 B18 engine, carburetor this one. So what does that mean? You have a 318 and a 318i. The I means injection. Not this one. This one has carburetor, which offered BMW to make actually an affordable, cheap engine, so which would benefit their production. The injection one had 103 horsepower and had a better fuel economy, and it had an all revised suspension, which corrected the oversteer problems with the e21. You would think when you see a e30, that's a small car. But actually, no, it isn't that small. Me being a kind of tall guy, when I get in, it seems kind of normal. And also, like, when you open the trunk, there's a lot of space. One of the major reasons behind that is the suspension. In the front, it uses a Mcpherson Strut, and in the end, it uses a semi-trailing arm suspension. What does it mean? Well, a Mcpherson Strut, well, maybe let's just explain a strut first. A strut is actually the essence of your suspension, and everything is built on the strut. Like, for example, a coil spring. The strut handles the weight of the car and also gives you a smoother ride. So actually it brings numerous parts of the suspension all onto one major part. So that's the strut. One of the most known struts out there is a Mcpherson Strut, and it just, the reason behind it is because it's cheap, easy to install, and it gives a general good handling. Considering the negative sides of a Mcpherson Strut, there aren't that many, but one of the major ones is that it gives the engineers less freedom to play with the camber, and that's an important part. Camber is the vertical angle between the tires and your car. Camber is negative when the top side of your wheel is facing the inside of your car. So if you would look in front of the car, the wheels would be like that. That's negative camber. Positive camber, of course, is the opposite way. Negative camber would be beneficial in, let's say, cornering, because when you have negative camber, the wheels are in a better place to get around a corner. And positive camber, or camber zero, when the tire is flat on the ground, would be beneficial in, let's say, acceleration, because you want 100% of grip to accelerate faster. So that's when, for example, camber 0 degrees would be beneficial. Yeah, despite all these drawbacks, the Mcpherson Strut is still one of the best. Most of the car companies use them. Like, for example, Porsche 911, a lot of Mercedes-Benz classes use them, and of course BMW still uses them. And I'm not the one complaining. So yeah, maybe enough theoretical stuff. Let's talk about this car. I got it around like 2 or 3 years ago, and the car is really clean. It's no rust at all, no dents, everything is stock, almost everything is stock. It's a really clean car. Also the interior, it's really nice. Never been beaten up, just been driven regularly, daily, nothing too special. Some few changes I've done are, for example, I've changed the suspension, just the springs. But boy, I've got to admit it, these springs are just fantastic. I mean, you can go over a speed bump, no matter the speed you're going through, you won't feel anything. What have I done otherwise? I've installed an additional rev counter, because on the dashboard here there is no rev counter. There was just one giant big ass clock, which I don't know why they put it there. Maybe rev counting wasn't that important for the people who bought it. I think it's important, so I installed the second one. I also installed an electric fan, same as a Pontiac, just to avoid overheating in the summer. Yeah, brakes fine. Original wheels, they are 14-inch wheels with 195 tires in the front and in the back. Yes, so this car doesn't have power steering. Let's say you only notice it in parking lots, for example, when you have to maneuver really slowly. But once you get above like 10 miles an hour, you don't feel anything about it. So it's not really a major drawback. So like I said before, just a small engine, 1.8. Unfortunately, it is an automatic, 3-speed. I know it should have been a manual, but even with a manual, wouldn't change anything, because this car isn't fast at all. Okay, so for example, let's just find a straight road with no cars. The car is at temperature, so I can give you a throttle down to show you what a 1.8 from 1986 gives. Carburetor, so 19 horsepower, 90 horsepower. Okay, I'm at a stop. Let's see what full throttle gives us. 3, 2, 1. I don't feel anything. Okay, now it pulls. No, still not. Okay, now it pulls a little bit. Yep, and okay, now almost 60 miles an hour. I mean, I actually expect less. It still pulls quite nicely for an engine this small, but I think it's because of the car. It's really light. So yeah. So in general, great car, handles perfectly. Speed isn't too bad. Automatic, so cruising is just perfect. I hope I will go finally go drifting next week. It's like once a month. I hope I will be able to make it next week. If I do, of course I will bring my GoPro with me and I will try to film as much as possible. Otherwise, I still have a lot of cars to review, so just stay tuned and see you next time.